One of the most common questions I get is around how do I build up, how do I warm up to my heavy sets? If you're taking on a big movement like a squat, you're certainly not going to move straight into your working weights. So what do the warm-up sets, what do those lead-up sets look like? Well, I'll tell you right now, there is no strict and or perfect strategy. But what we need to do is minimize how much work we have to do to get to our top sets, whilst at the same time ensuring that we do enough work to prepare our body and our nervous system to take on some heavy fucking weights. Any unnecessary work, whether it be load progressions or repetitions along the way, is going to cause an unnecessary amount of fatigue that's going to potentially impact us at the top. So the goal is to find a sweet spot between those two factors, and I'm about to take on 220 to 240 kilograms in a back squat and show you the exact progression I'm going to take, and I think you'll be very surprised how little work I actually do before taking on my top sets. Set number one is with an empty bar. I'll do about 8 reps here. I'm not worried too much about depth, just want to get comfortable, start to load the legs, get in the right position. Let's get into it. One of the biggest mistakes you can make when lifting light weights, progressing you to your heavy working sets, is not being mindful, not being intentional enough with how you're moving and how that load is being placed upon your body. If you disrespect the technique and the value of these light warm-up sets, it will come back to bite you in the ass when you get to the top. Our next load progression is 70 kilos. We've added a 25 either side, and we'll be sticking with 25s for the first few progressions. As I said, we want to take as few jumps as possible. If you can, we want as big a jump between each load progression. But depending upon how much total load you're going to lift and how comfortable you are taking big jumps, you may need to take smaller ones. Just 4 reps here at 70 kilos. The focus of these lighter sets is to ensure that my technique is as squeaky clean as it can be, and I am prioritizing as much load in my legs as possible, and my back does the bare minimum so it doesn't prematurely fatigue. Next load progression is another set of 25s, so we're dealing with 120 kilos here. I'll just be knocking out 2 reps this time, and if you're wondering how long I'm resting between these progressions, between these earlier sets, not a long time. Around 2 minutes. That will get a little bit longer as we progress, as the load and the intensity increases. As you'll notice with this progression, the speed is increased just a smidge. I'm still really focusing on creating tension and prioritizing that load through my legs, but I'm increasing speed a little bit as the load gets heavier, because when it gets to the top, I need to be prepared to move faster, to utilize momentum, take advantage of that bounce in and out of the bottom. Okay, so we've got another big boy jump here, another set of 25s. It's another 50 kilo increase. We've got 170 kilos on the bar. Gonna stick to 2 reps. This will be our last set where we're doing more than a single rep. Let's see how we go. You can definitely feel the big jumps from 120 to 170, but I'm experienced. I've been doing this a long time, and I know through trial and error, if I'm willing and able to take bigger jumps, especially at the bottom, it's going to pay dividends at the top, because that's unnecessary work I haven't done. The best way to strategize your load progressions is to think about and look at what it is that you're wanting to lift. What are the top sets that you're working to, and then work backwards from there. That way you can map out and see exactly how little you have to do in order to get you to your top sets. I'm not 100% sure exactly where I might go today, but I'm gonna throw some shit at the wall and see what sticks. So my next load progression is 200 kilos. I've added 30 kilos to the bar, so it's not as big of a big boy jump as previous, but it sets me up nicely to go from 200 to then 220, then maybe straight to 240, but we see how we go when we get there. Just singles from now on. That was a little bit harder than I was hoping / expecting, and I was a little bit distracted, to be honest. It's a very hot and sweaty day today, and mentally, as soon as I got under the bar, I could feel that I was slipping a little bit under the bar. So next set, I'm gonna chalk up my upper back. One, to be a little bit more secure, but two, so mainly I'm not mentally distracted by it, because if I'm focusing on this, at least to some degree, I'm not focusing on applying myself the very best that I can. Next progression is 220 kilos. So I've added 20 kilos to the bar, and what I'll be having up my sleeve is my trusty belt. Over the years, I've gone back and forth as to how much to use the belt or how little to use the belt, when to introduce the belt. Look, it comes down to personal preference, trial and error, see what works best for you. For me, at the moment, I like to incorporate my belt as late as possible. I feel like it's a real kick up the ass to allow that much more intra-abdominal pressure and support through my midsection, and psychologically, it's that support when I need it the most, when shit starts to get real fucking heavy. So, 220 on the bar now, we'll go for a single, see how it feels, and then make a judgment call as to what the next move will be. As expected, the introduction of the belt was very, very nice. It allowed a whole lot more security through my midsection, a lot more confidence mentally, and because I was distracted and probably took 200 kilos a little bit too lightly mentally, it made me switch the fuck on. 220 felt like a dream. I've got 240 kilograms on the bar now. I've decided this will be my top set. I've rested about 5 minutes going on now. By the time I get into it, it'll be about 6. If I can get 2 reps out, I'll be fucking stoked. If it's just 1, so be it. If there's 3 in the tank, I'll see if it's there. I'll cinch this fucking nice and tight. I've got my top song queued up. Let's get into it. There's no hiding at 240 kilograms. Time to switch the fuck on. Let's go, baby. Let's go again. Yeah, one more, baby, one more. Oh, yeah. That was tough. I was seeing stars after the first rep, but surprisingly, it felt easier than I thought it would. And to be honest, I probably would have had another rep, but I probably cinched that belt a little bit too tight for multiple reps. If you're gonna use a belt, you want it nice and tight. But if you're gonna do a top single, you can afford to cinch it as tight as possible to create as much support if you know how to use it properly. But if you're doing multiple reps, 3, 4, I was on that cusp. That's when the demand of such a heavy load has a bigger impact on your respiratory rate and your heart rate, how much you're breathing and how hard your heart is pumping. After 1, 2 reps, getting into my third, did I have a 4th rep? There might have been a chance I passed out. Didn't feel like passing out with 240 kilos on my back, as you could understand. So let's go through how a few repetitions I actually performed getting up to my 240 kilogram top set. Did 8 reps at 20 kilos. I did another 4 reps at 70 kilos, so that's 12. See how good my maths is. I did another 2 reps at 170, that's 14. I did 1 rep at 20, that's 15, and 1 rep at 220, that's 16. Not a whole lot of reps, and out of those 16 reps, half of those were done with an empty barbell, simply just getting myself loose. The whole idea there is to ensure that when I'm at the top, I am as prepared as I can be from a neural demand standpoint. My nervous system has been fired up the very best it can, but I haven't taken on any unnecessary fatigue along the way. Everyone's progression, depending upon who you are, your experience, and how you feel on the day, will vary. But if we find that sweet spot between getting yourself as prepared as possible whilst minimizing the work you have to do, you'll put yourself in the best possible position to lift the heaviest fucking weights you can.